Microsoft is definitely on the list for tomorrow due to the fact. Hey everybody, in tonight's video, we're going to go through 5 stocks to watch tomorrow going into the earnings season. We're going to start with Microsoft, and we should really talk about what the heck happened today. So this is the opening bar. Why in the world did this happen? Well, China got a third term, and then in the middle of trading, we had the Department of Justice come out and said they were going to make some big national emergency meeting. And so we all thought that it might be something, meaning traders have no idea what it is. So we all think it might be something related to TikTok or social media or something like that. It looks like it stems from a case that happened in 2008 and actually has no bearing. And then you can see right when they came out with that at 130, we retested that level and then just started taking off, right? Whenever you have these long-legged dojis, just a really quick tip, it's always important to just draw lines on it because these are places of interest. Now, the question is, what do you do now? Well, you have earnings coming out, right? And you're looking at this. You have to be careful going in earnings because it was wild last time. And it's been wild the last 2 times, okay? This is the last quarter you had earnings, and you can see the swing. And that's based upon currency fluctuation. Same thing that happened here. They missed, and then they explained it on the conference call, and then it rallies. So you could see the same thing here. You're just going to have to be careful with how this is going to act going forward. I'm not so sure how we're going to act tomorrow. But what you would try to do is try to get near the 243 level. Maybe we could sell down some kind of panic tonight, maybe some new meeting that they're going to have tomorrow. Or maybe there's one of the 7 Fed speakers that's going to speak tomorrow for the 12th time. Something that's going to drive us down. And then we can get into this trade and get involved. So I like this going into earnings, but I really want to see. And if I'm not up and in and protected via married puts and controlling my risk, I will not be in that trade, just FYI. Now, Netflix I want to discuss for a couple reasons. I like the trade, and I still think it should be on everybody's radar, but you have to understand, very briefly, you're going into earnings week. Netflix is like a social media post, right? What was posted last week, no one's even paying attention to anymore. So people are not going to focus on it. They're going to focus on Apple, Amazon, Meta, Google. They are the names that they're going to focus on right now, not Netflix. Doesn't mean you forget about it. Just remember that it's there and we'll come back to it. But more people are going to be paying attention to things like ENPH. Now, this was the last move that it had on a quarterly, very similar chart, got this little doji. This time we have this dragonfly doji sitting right there. I have absolutely no idea what these earnings are going to be. They should be good, but I have no way of knowing that. And you're sitting right at a key level. So I would watch this one tomorrow, and maybe if you flip that higher high, maybe it's possible to get in and hedge this before earnings, but you're going to have to watch. Now, we talked about this one over the weekend, and you're up about 3% it looks like today. On Saturday, we do the top 10. As always, subscribe to the channel, click all notifications, because what we go over here is timely. You do not want to be watching this a couple weeks from now. It's pointless. So if you flip that level, which you did, there was your trigger, got you in, you're up a little bit. You're probably not up enough to hold that into earnings, right? Those options probably down here are like 50, 60 cents. So you're going to have some risk into it. But I do expect this to be a good quarter, and you can't trade on what I'm saying because we don't know, right? But if you take a look at Schlumberger and how they did, I mean, they just knocked the cover off the ball. And this is what you're seeing too. After companies come out and report, they're the ones people are buying because they feel the most comfortable with, because they already have their earnings behind them. So it's one less thing that they have to worry about. Make sure you stay to the end because I want to do the indexes. But I also think it's important that we take a look at Tesla and what the heck happened today. So Tesla came all the way down, right? Broke down. Z got a third term, even though you're only supposed to have 2. So we break down and we just line these up. Reminder, when you're here and you have that little wick and that little spot on the wick, that's where someone said, I will buy everything that you have. Okay? That's why it stops going down, because you have all the sellers dried up and you have nothing but buyers. Hence it goes higher. Don't overthink it. So when you come to those levels and you start breaking them down, you become worried, right? But here's your breakdown bar, and then what happens? Then you go sideways, then you break that bar, form a flag, and now you're dealing with this, and everyone's wondering why they got out of it. And all you're really dealing with is the fact that we had a news event today, and no one knew what the heck that news event was going to be. So it threw everybody off. Stock trades up, but This one, you've gap filled right to this level and then you stop. That's a really clean rejection. And now if you look at that rejection, you also have pretty much a bearish engulfing bar right here. You have confirmation right here on the break. So is this the area that you would probably want to be going long? Probably not. You'd probably want to be on the short side of this. And what you could do is always just see where you are with your 5-day moving average. They've been great demarcation lines. And am I anywhere near the 5? Not really. So do I need to be in this? Not really. There's much better names that we should be focused on and looking at. Some of these names are fairly interesting for trades. I keep looking at this Baba. I'm not a fan of this company. People that have been following me on Twitter or on YouTube for a couple years now know that I'm constantly trying to short it like a perma short. But that said, when you see something like this and you see this bounce like that, and then you see JP Morgan come out and say, oh, by the way, we think that these are overdone and present a buying opportunity. Well, let's just walk through exactly what they're doing, okay? Stock traded down. This is probably where their clients got in, right? And now they come up and it's called talking up your book, right? So in other words, what they do now is they come out and they roll and they start talking about how great and all the opportunities that are out there. Let's get rid of this horizontal line. This is just anchored VWAP from that date. So, and that's the 5-day. Let's get rid of that so it's not clouding us up. So now what does this mean? Well, here's your reversal bar, right? Here's your bullish engulfing. If you're looking for reversals and you're trading reversals in this market and you're just trying to pick away, if you're not looking at bullish and bearing engulfings and you're not looking at bullish or bearish hook reversals, there is a video at the end of this I'll link to. You're missing out because these are the easiest trades in the world. They either work or they don't. But once that flips right there, there's your signal. This bar forms. After this bar forms, makes the higher high, this becomes your stop. You're literally in this for like $1. Okay, and now you're up about 2.5, 3. Now the question is, what do you do with it? Well, I would watch this really closely tomorrow because if you get into the gap, you're going to have the value investor step into it. And I think that's where we're going with this. I think that's what's going to happen. I think you're going to gap fill. I'm not talking about the company. I'm not talking about anything else. I'm purely technical analysis. We're going to get into some of the more macro stuff in a minute here, but I think you should focus on that name. Now, besides those names, you are seeing other names that continue to push higher. Now, let's go through Twitter very quickly. We're going through a lot of names tonight on purpose. So this was something we bought in the trading community. And the reason we did was we knew when that news came out that it was just silly. So we actually bought it pre-market, like between 48 and 49. Now you're up to about 52, 51.80 after hours. I'm out. It's supposed to close. There's $2-3 left. We'll see how fast this actually does close. But the easy money's been made, so it's time to move on. If you're in here, you're hanging in there for $3. It could take forever, and you don't know what his next tweet is going to be. So you never know what Elon's going to do and what the next move is. I would tell you to focus on names like this. This is something that we've been buying in the newsletter since 14. If you get the newsletter or you don't, there's actually a link in description below. But these kinds of names, this is working. These kinds of breakouts, these thinner one-off names that have very little to do. Here's another one that's in the newsletter, up 5. Stocks that have nothing to do with what's going on under the hood, they're just doing their thing. This one's at all-time highs. And there's very few stocks you can go and look at that are at all-time highs right now. So what does that mean? Well, it means that this is what you should be focused on. I see a lot of people focusing on Merck, looking at these names. I'm not knocking that. I'm not knocking the Cignas of the world. I'm not. It's not my kind of trade to buy a $300 stock and then, I go up like $2. It's just not my kind of trade. But there's a dichotomy going on here, right? So how can healthcare and tech go up at the same time? It doesn't make any sense. So one is going to give. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because I still believe, and I went over this in the private pre-market video, I'll go over it now. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder. This is a neckline. Okay? Your necklines do not need to be flat. So I'll say that again. Your necklines do not need to be flat. They can be angled. Okay? This one was angled. You came down, look where you opened right on it. And then you flipped and then you went higher. This is confirmation. Now, if you overlay just some very simplistic things here, you can see very clearly how here you are. You're flipping up already. Right here comes the 11. I have an 11 in. There's the 5, which just happened to be the low of the day. I mean, don't overthink this. Don't overcomplicate this. You don't need to go draw 12 or 13 Anchored VWAPs are used 20 different proprietary mechanics. Just look at this and it's really clear what's going on. Is this going to last? I think it's going to, but we have to trade what's in front of us, right? So it really doesn't matter what I think. It matters what happens. And this video is going to go over just a little bit, but you do want to hear what I have to say. So I try to keep these to 10 minutes. There's your 380 level, and you rejected that 380 level. So if you're rejecting those kinds of levels, you need to pay attention to that, okay? Because this is where reversal patterns have been happening for a very long period of time. Keep that in mind. Now, if you look at the Qs, this on balance volume, you broke out. This is not a debate, okay? This is not debatable. You've broken out. Whether that breakout holds, whether Microsoft comes out with earnings, whether the DOJ gives another speech, whether Z gets a fourth term in the next 5 days, I have no idea. All I can tell you is that broke out, and that's what I know. And now what I need to do is I need to go through this and take a look at the 10-year and go, did the 10-year take out a high? No. Okay. Until this 10-year takes out a high, you're not taking out lows on the market. Okay. Exactly what I just said. Until that 10-year takes out that high, you are not taking out lows of this market. Doesn't mean you're going straight up, but keep that in mind. You can look at the VIX all you want. We can talk about the VIX, how it traded up. Maybe it's going back to 30. Focus on this. You have a new prime minister in the UK right now. I know more about UK politics than I care to mention. And what that's going to do is it's actually making people buy the gilt, and it's actually making people buy their currency, and they're selling the dollar, right? As we put in the free newsletter, dollar drops, people buy bonds. People buy bonds, they buy equities because then they can hedge their risk. That's all I have for this evening. If you are interested in the trading community, there is a link to preview it up here in the top right corner. Please comment on the #1 stock that you are looking at tomorrow, because there's 8,000 out there and I am always missing something. Have a great night, everybody. Trade to win.